Sometimes our relationships feel unbalanced. You feel like you're putting in way too much and you're not getting that much back. Or you feel like you're taking a lot and you're not giving enough back. That just happens. So when that happens, we need to do some adjustments. We need to do a little bit of investigation, a little bit of inquiry, and then make some adjustments so that we have a good relationship ROI. And in case you don't know what that means, because I didn't until a few years ago, it's return on investment. We all want to feel like what we're putting in is what we're getting back, and that we're giving enough to the people who are giving to us. So we're going to dig into that video today. I'm Stacy Rocklein. I'm a relationship literacy coach, and I help people to create, strengthen, and deepen their emotional connections. So when you have an imbalance, it's no big deal. It's something that totally happens. We go through changes in relationships. Sometimes we go through a season where it gets off balance, but then it pulls back in. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes this person needs more. Sometimes this person needs more. And sometimes a relationship is actually only in our life for a season. And it becomes time to stop putting our energy in there or stop taking from somebody that is putting in a lot toward us and move on to something else. This is the impermanence of human relationships, which is perfectly okay. But when you get into this situation, I'm going to give you 3 different things to ask yourself so that you can get back into balance. And the first one is, what is the nature of this relationship? And you're going to have to be really honest with yourself. I mean, this is where we get into trouble, right? When we've got 2 people and one person thinks we're best friends and the other person just thinks we're friends. And when people have different categories that they've put each other in, they're going to have different expectations, right? There's a different expectation of what a friend does versus what a best friend does, of what a boyfriend does versus what a spouse does. So then when you've got different categories and then you've got different expectations, what is going to happen is you're going to end up with disappointment. And it happens on both sides. The person who is being expected to show up differently than they are doesn't feel good for them that they're disappointing someone else. And for the person who is having somebody not show up for them according to their expectations, that feels painful too. So there's pain coming from both directions. And sometimes that starts just with that first question of like, what's the category? What's the nature of this relationship? Honestly, try your best, if you can't directly ask the person, to figure out what it is to them and what it is to you. And if that is different, right there is where you're going to have to do a little investigation as to what to do next. The second thing to ask yourself is this permanent or is this temporary? Because of the ebb and flow of relationships, sometimes you take more and sometimes you give more. It's never going to be, keeping score is the worst thing we can do in our relationships. You do want to have a good idea of, do we have a nice balance of who gives what, but not in a keeping score, keeping tabs, everybody's paying attention to a perfectly equal all the time situation. It just doesn't work that way. So is this temporary? Right now, you're being asked to step up more, or right now you need more? Or is it more of a permanent situation where when you look back, you go, oh, actually, this relationship has always been like this. I'm always giving way more than I should, I'm always, dumping all of my garbage out and never asking what the other person needs, If it's a permanent situation, that's a kind of a different thing to deal with than a temporary one. And you still get to ask yourself the question of whether you want to do something about it or not. There aren't any wrong answers, you'll know what's best for you. But that gets me to the third piece. And the third piece is, what is the action you need to take? We don't have that many hours in our day. We honestly don't. Like after we work and we sleep and we get and prepare our food and eat it and we take care of our physical selves and we take care of our environments, after all of that, we don't have that many hours. And building relationships is one of the most important things we can ever do with our time, but we have to be wise about it. We've got to put our energy and our love and our time into the relationships that are going to be life-giving for us and that are going to be life-giving for the other person as well. So when you think about what action you want to take, sometimes that's knowing I got to step up a little bit more here, be a better friend. Sometimes I need to put a pause on this relationship and pull back a little bit. You will know the answer. But what you want to look at, the landscape of your relationships, what you want to see is across your life, all of these ways you spend your time and your love and your energy, it's with people where it feels balanced. It feels good. And balance is different for every person. Like you might like to be the person who puts in a little bit of extra in all of your relationships. That's perfectly okay. You can tell when you've gone too far, when things like resentment and that kind of thing starts to show up. Then you've tipped a little bit too far and you got to pull back in your reins. So everybody's balance looks different, but you want to feel that there's balance for everybody here so that we can keep deepening these relationships that we have. They are the most important thing that we have. So just a few different things to look at. If you are looking at a relationship right now where you can just feel that it's off, it's not quite right. You know, most of the people who come into my world, it's that I'm giving way too much. But there are lots of people out there, and I've been guilty of this before, where I've taken too much and not given enough in return. And that just feels like expectation is on you, and it feels like there might be disappointment. And sometimes that's just something that you've got to address and deal with. So where do you need to look? What's the nature of the relationship, first of all? Secondly, is it permanent or is it a temporary situation? And third, what action can you take right now to pull this back into balance so that those hours, those precious hours, that you're investing in those relationships that are going to just feed your soul, feed your heart, feed your life, and simultaneously make the other person feel the same way. Thank you very much for watching. If you are a woman who is interested in relationships in general and would like to come join our free Facebook group, you can find us with a quick search, Women Committed to Relationships, and we'd love to have you join us. And just what I would say today is to share this with anybody that you know tends to find themselves in unbalanced relationships so that they've got a step forward, a step towards better connections and higher quality connections, and just appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.